Hey everybody, this video, basically I made a promise to Spoon in his comment section that I would talk about something of the history of the skeptic community. Why? Mainly because he's made a couple of videos talking about some people in the skeptic community who have risen up again due to the recent controversy over the new Starfield game. And Hill versus Babyface, or AZ or Az, is a rant about it. So far, just about every last person that I know has majorly talked about it. Those in the former skeptic community, I'm quite surprised to see that they're still alive. Not physically, but, online-wise, okay? I'm glad they haven't literally physically died. But, I told him I'd give him a bit of a history of the skeptic community and kind of where these people are coming from. He did mention something that I was surprised that he had already figured out, that a lot of these people were originally on the left anyway. Now, to give you a bit of a history, coming out and being truthful, I'm not playing Starfield. It's not a game I'm interested in. The pronoun thing I don't like, but I'm like, yeah, whatever, When you're not playing the game, when you're not interested, a part of you really doesn't care if they put pronouns in, because you're like, well, I'm not going to buy this game anyway, so I don't care if they fuck it up. I think the only thing that saddens me about it is that Bethesda is one of the few remaining video game companies based in America that still actually exist, still puts out content. Anybody seen a Jack and Daxter game lately? When was the last time we had a Ratchet and Clank game? You kind of see where I'm going with this? Yeah, American video game companies are kind of dead in the water because they accepted the social justice warrior, woke PC correct bullshit. So now, bit of history of myself. I've been a conservative since I was in my mid-20s. So when Sargon pops up around 2013, 2014, yelling about feminism and video games and stuff like that and arguing with Anita Sarkeesian, my first thought was, oh, that's great. You just now catching up, young buck? How old is Sargon? I thought. He's got to be in his early 30s, because I already knew about all this stuff. For those of you who don't know, Sargon's about 3 years younger than me. He was born in 1980. I was born in 1977. So I was already seeing this, and so were others like me. So now the presentation for all of this is basically starting with geek culture, gamer culture, being a nerd, being a geek, being a spaz. All throughout the 90s, this was a bad thing. People calling you a gamer was the equivalent of calling you a fag. Calling you a geek or a nerd was the equivalent of calling you a loser. But somewhere between 1998 and 2001, 2002, all of a sudden, being a gamer, being a nerd, being a geek, that was cool. The Sci-Fi Channel, an old cable channel that's still around, somehow made being geek chic. And so an entire new subculture that had always been around rose up and suddenly became prosperous and cool. Of course, it's capitalism. If we can sell it, we'll sell it. And it's legal to sell it. So geek became chic. It became cool. And by 2014, of course, here came Anita Sarkeesian. Sargon to be her counter, her yin to yang. And he complained about people like her trying to destroy the gaming community by claiming, oh, it's misogynist and anti-woman. And on the heels of him and his quickly growing fame came a number of other young people who all began complaining about the exact same thing. Women, and needing to gatekeep the gaming community and the geek and the nerd and the spaz community to keep these people out because they were going to destroy everything we loved. Now, like I said, I was already a conservative, and I had been seeing this slow destruction of our culture, our community, our hobbies, ever since 2001, when Marvel began releasing its Ultimate Marvel storyline, which, steaming hot pile of garbage, believe me. If you don't know Spoon, look up Ultimate Marvel in Wikipedia, and you will find out a crazy story about a set of comics put out by Marvel that just slowly killed itself over the years. Believe me, I was there. I watched it happen. They were done by 2010, but it began the trend that we see now, ending now. So Sargon, he rallied those he could and tried to keep the community. The problem that he had, and I think he realized it by about the time Trump came into office, was that a lot of his audience was actually conservative. I think the delusion that a lot of the skeptic community had was that most of their supporters, the viewers, the subscribers, the followers, were all from 4chan. And contrary to popular opinion, 4chan is not really very right-wing. It's pseudo-right-wing. It basically takes the negatives that the left put on quote-unquote right-wingers and they apply it to themselves. So if you're so in Poll, a lot of these guys are nationalist socialist types. They're LARPers at it, but they basically, they want everything the left has. They just want it in a quote-unquote pro-white lens. This is what they thought they had, the skeptic community. That's who they thought their fan base was. They did not realize that while some of us might be hanging out on 4chan, we're actual conservatives. You know, Rush Limbaugh type conservatives. Reagan type conservatives. That's who a lot of us were back then. So now what causes, when these kind of things happen, what happens is you get somebody like Trump in who's a populist. And these young folks, they've been on the left all of their lives. And then one morning they wake up, Trump has won. Oh, the right wing has run, the alt-right, the blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, well, wait a minute. Who's all of my audience? Wait a minute, I thought my audience was a bunch of 4chaners and Kiwi farmers and blah, 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 blah. People on the left like me. No. We might agree with you as far as the politics and the gatekeeping in the gaming community, but no, we are not on the left. We are not on the left in any form or fashion, and we never have been. It's you who were on the left the whole time. Shoehead is a good example of this. After her horrible breakup with Armored Skeptic and being gone for like 6-7 months, maybe more, she pops back in and is like, oh, guys, didn't you realize I was a Bernie Sanders fan? I think I told you I voted for Bernie Sanders twice. You voted for a loser twice. Oh, you poor little thing, you. My dear sweet summer child. She didn't realize that all of her audience was on the right, and the only reason they were watching her is because she was dissing feminism. Okay? And they thought that, I still don't understand why they thought she was cute. I never really thought she was cute. Too much fucking makeup. But I digress for a moment. The reality is most of the skeptic community's army of followers and viewers and subscribers were all on the right. Some of them at least had the good guts and decency to say, I'm not pivoting to the right. Chris Ray Gun being a very good example of this. Some black guy and a few others, and you can guess where they all went. Anybody heard from Andy Borski lately? You see, when the right actually gets their shit together, they are not only a dominating force, but we're kind of a live and let live type of thing too. So, oh, okay, you don't want to join us on the Trump side, on the right side. Okay, bye, we don't have to watch your content anymore. That's what happened to virtually all of them. Save for a very, very small number that made it through. One of them was Sargon, who I can remember back in 2014, 2015, all through 2016, and maybe a little further in, Sargon was at first a leftist. I remember, oh, I'm still on the left. I'm a leftist. I just don't agree with what I see the left doing in my country and in the Western world in general. Then all of a sudden he's a classic liberal. Classic liberals are like Quakers and Puritans. They did exist at one point, but now they don't. Okay? There are no more classic liberals left unless you want to count Robert Kennedy Jr. at the moment. Okay, we used to call them Kennedy Democrats back in the day. He's a Kennedy Democrat. In other words, he's a patriot. He loves his country. He believes in slightly smaller government, and he's not putting up with any bullshit. Okay? That's it. That's what Robert Kennedy basically is. He is a Kennedy Democrat in the mold of his uncle, John F. Kennedy. Okay? That's it. But there are no classic liberals left. Okay? They don't exist. You can claim it all you want, but doesn't mean you're gonna solidify a movement out of it, Sargon. So eventually Sargon just became conservative. Why? Because he realized that's exactly what he was. Now, you have guys like Tim Pool, who, well, you know where Tim Pool went. He still claims he's a Democrat. But the left left me behind. I don't see how they could have left you behind when you got a fence post going up your ass and coming out your mouth. But I'm trying to be nice here. Trying to be nice here. But we all know what Tim Pool is. He is a fence sitter. Not a grifter, but he is definitively a fence sitter. Because that's where he feels the most comfortable. At least he admits it. At least he admits it. You got other guys who they tried their best to, quote unquote, pivot to the right. And they all failed miserably at it. A good example of this is Lacey Green. I don't remember Lacey Green. 5'4", maybe 5'5". H-cup rack on her. Yeah. Big old tig-old bitties. Yeah. She slowly started pivoting to the right after she started dating Chris Ray Gun. Chris Ray Gun was never on the right either. He was another leftist who was a skeptic. What happened to her? Well, last time I checked, she was maybe making a video once every month if you were lucky. The only reason she was popular is because she was getting a lot of hate watches and she had big titties. She's faded on. She claimed she was going to start going back to school to become a sexologist. This girl was already in her mid-20s at this point. And I'm like, you're going to go back to school to become a sexologist? Okay. Sexologist. Jesus Christ. What are you going to do with a sexologist? You're going to bring couples in and like, okay, apparently you don't know how to fuck your wife, right? Okay. What the fuck, man? Oh, well, are you married, young lady? Oh, no. I'm just going to, I just have a degree that says I can teach you how to fuck properly. Okay. Because that's what a sexologist most likely is. Okay. But I digress but for a moment. Armored Skeptic, anybody seen him lately? Other than the total meltdown I guess he had after he broke up with Shu. He couldn't pivot to the right. But at least he had enough guts not to do it to be fake. Alright? Don't be fake. People, especially those of us who are conservatives and been conservatives a long time, we can smell that bullshit. We can smell you brown nosing. It's all over your face since most of you are white anyway. But there were a few that came out of it unscathed. And there was a new generation that started popping up too around the time that Trump got elected. So let's say 2017, 2018. You had Hard Bastard, who used to pal around with Aiden Paladin. I just put it that way. And she promised she would have him preaching conservatism within a year, and damn right she did. You had Jeremy of the Quartering. Tim Pool, I guess you can add to that list. And several others, including, well, let's just go ahead and say it. Spoon of Broken Crown, and now Aiden Paladin of Broken Crown. There was a small but growing group of conservative center-right types that have been rising up slowly. They may not be getting the same audience numbers as a Sargon and a few others, but they're still there. What is the binding factor with all of these? Well, the current crisis in society is trans people. And I'm just being upfront and honest. Yeah, them trying to touch the kids too. So this is something that everybody can agree upon. Whether you're center-right, center-left, independent, libertarian, monarchist, blah, 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 and all that other good shit. Guess what? We can all agree we don't want a bunch of guys in dresses touching our kids. So that's a unifying factor. That was the unifying factor that the skeptic community had. They were all gatekeeping the geek community until there was no longer any use in doing it. So once they didn't have that unifying factor, they all slowly fell apart because they couldn't pivot to the left, from the left to the right. Even doing it in a way that was pretty good and decent. And like I said, if you didn't want to pivot from the left, if you were going to stick to your principles, then more power to you. I'm not going to disrespect you and tell you that you're a terrible person. Okay, you've got your political beliefs, I got mine. You had your moment in the sun. Okay, moving on. So now we have the new quote-unquote extreme right. If y'all young folks don't know it just yet, Spoon, you are considered to be alt-right, the new alt-right, the new extremist right. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Don't feel bad about it. I'm sure you already know. They can call you that all they want. Doesn't mean that's what you are. But you guys are the newest threat to the new abnormal. So where do you guys go from here? Until the trans crisis dies down, you guys are all unified under a certain code, a certain thing you believe in, and then you can still pick up where the old skeptics left off and argue for video games to be gate kept and every other hobby that we had in the geek community. You can still argue for that. But the politics is the thing now, because now you realize your enemies have pretty much destroyed your hobby. Now they're looking to destroy something else. Well, gosh, we destroyed the hobbies. Television's dead. Hollywood's about to die. And while it slowly commits suicide. What do we have next? Oh, I know. We'll go after the kids. Oh, we got nothing better to do besides anyway. All those skeptics and stuff, they've got kids now. So now it's time to revert and molest the kids. And I think that's what a lot of these survivors of the old skeptic days are realizing. Like, holy crap, man, what was I used to support? Jesus Christ. Now I got kids. Now you still got a few of them that are still around. The lefty-leaning types like Destiny. I spit upon your name. Long story. You still got a few of them around, but even they have no other choice but to stick with us. Whether they want to or not. Because guess what? There's nothing there on the left for you. Unless you want to cut off and mutilate your genitalia and start putting on a dress. And constantly apologize and be a little bitch. That's the only way. And I think even Destiny, as much as a cuck that he is, isn't going to go that far. You still have some centrist types, such as Sitch and Adam, who I barely watch and can barely stand. If you're going to be conservative, boys, be a conservative. If you're going to be an independent, at least show me how it is to be an independent. To be neither right nor left. You don't seem to know how, and that's the biggest problem with a lot of these young folks coming in. You don't know what right and left really means. You only have the media to tell you. And your media is left-wing. Better wake up, kiddos. If you really want to know what a conservative is, ask in the comments, I'll tell you. Conservative is more than just Donald Trump, I will say that much. Now, as far as the rest of this goes, there's really not much else to say. Things change, fads come and go. New crises erupt and everybody chooses their sides. It's kind of the history of the skeptic community. None of it's really left anymore. Like I said, anybody seen Andy Warski lately? He had his grift in the sun, turning the skeptic community against itself just so he could make a few $1,000,000 bucks, which he did, and he's gone now. Who cares? A fitting end to an idiot, in my opinion. Well, I just hope these new young folks, they can last. I believe they will, because they have a good grounding foundation. And you have folks like the Daily Wire, Jordan Peterson, his daughter, and a few others who are well grounded in conservative principles. So when some of these younger folks start to wonder where they're going to go, they have these older guys, and that would include me too, to look to. You don't have to look to me. You can look to Jordan Peterson. I really don't care. Once you get to past a certain age, you stop worrying about certain things. Well, Spoon and others, I hope everybody has learned a nice little lesson today about the history of YouTube Skeptic Community and the YouTube current political sphere. Enjoy this video. Leave something in the comments if you have some questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. I'm going to have to mention Spoon in the description or something. I'm going to have to figure out a way so he can see this. Either way, maybe I'll mention him on Twitter too. Oh, yes. Before I go, though, I got to get back to putting stuff on BitChute and on Rumble and maybe on Odyssey as well. We'll figure it all out. Gotten really behind. All right. Everybody take care and have a blessed day.